Hello, and welcome back to another episode of me spewing my random opinions about random things that, are my opinions professional? No. Do they have any, actual foundation that people should be relying on to agree with my opinions? No. But I like to say them. And so I'm going to say them. This is my August book recap. I read 5 books in August. Now, I would say 5 or 6 books a month is about my average. And we just need to talk about the fact that for some people, those are baby numbers. For some people, that is nothing. Y'all are crazy. I don't know how you do it. I respect you. You impress me. Unless you're the type of person who hates on other people who don't read, 15 books a month. I think 5 or 6 books is a good, even, steady number for me. It works. It comes naturally. It's good. So I read 5 books. We're going to talk about those 5 books, and I'm going to tell you all about it. So the first book that I read in August was on my Kindle. I read the first Crescent City book, House of Earth and Blood. So this is Sarah J. Maas, of course. I've already read all of ACOTAR, all of Throne of Glass. And so I would say Crescent City so far. I've already started the second book, House of Sky and Breath, but I'm not that far into it yet. I gotta say this series is kind of starting to feel kind of like a middleman, like a middle ground between the other two, if that makes any sense. I think it's more serious than ACOTAR, but less serious or less intense, at least, than Throne of Glass, if that makes any sense. I like Bryce. I like her character. I think she's incredible. I think that the story is really cool so far, and I like the fact that it takes place in modern times. I know it takes place in a much more modern area. They have cell phones and emails and TV and all that. It's very, very modern-esque, but it's still very fantasy. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a futuristic fantasy thing, which I didn't know if I was gonna like, but I actually kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to give too much away about the plot because I feel when you first go into this book, it's a lot. You have a lot to catch up on. You have a lot of lore, a lot of world building that you don't know anything about, and you have to learn it pretty quick. And those first few chapters had me really confused, really rereading a lot of things, trying to figure out what is going on. It kind of felt to me like Sarah J. Maas just threw every mythical creature she's ever heard of into this universe, and it's really intense. But once you get into it, it felt pretty smooth. Once you kind of figure out the general construction of this society, it's pretty chill and it's pretty entertaining, and I got really, really, really into it. I was freaking out by the end of the book. Once again, it's she's very good. Sarah J. Maas, very good at suspense, very good at entertaining, exciting stuff. And while this was romantasy, I struggle to call it romantasy though, because the romance is honestly quite on the down low, if that makes any sense. It's there the whole time, but there is so much going on that is not romance. And I especially don't want to call Throne of Glass romantasy. ACOTAR is very romantasy. These two have a lot more fantasy elements and a lot more world building and are a lot more well constructed, I would say. So yeah, I really liked House of Earth and Blood. I really liked the fact there's a murder investigation happening, which is one of my favorite plot lines, is a murder mystery sort of type thing. So I thought that was really cool. And there are a lot of really cool characters in this book. Although the amount of mythical creatures was definitely overwhelming, it's also definitely interesting because some of which I have literally never heard of before or know virtually nothing about. So I'm learning. And granted, it's not, a very comprehensive education because it's just based off of this version that Sarah J. Maas created, but it's better than nothing. And yeah, I've been having a good time. I've been having a good time. And when I'm reading fantasy, romantasy books like that, that is the goal, to have a fun time. And I am. And so that's yeah. These books are just really long though. These books are just really long. But then again, I read Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms at the same time. So I can spend a lot of time with a book, okay? And I'm okay with it. Moving on. So next, I read a newer book, Reckless by Lauren Roberts. So I read Powerless in, I think, January or February, and then I read Powerful, I think in May or something, and now I'm here on Reckless. Funnily enough, this is my favorite one so far. I've talked a little bit about the fact that I thought Powerless was overrated. Not necessarily that I thought it was bad or the worst thing ever, but it was very, very overrated. People really hype it up in a way that I think is crazy, like very dramatic. I also did recently find out that Lauren Roberts is actually 21 years old. For some reason in my head, I was just assuming she was like older, like Sarah J. Maas, like other like romantasy authors. She's 21. She's like a year older than me at the most. Crazy. Kudos to her. This is so impressive for somebody so young. So cool. So yeah, but this is actually my favorite book so far. I loved the tension in this book. I thought that, like, you know, the end of Powerless really changes everything, and it changes the dynamic between Kai and Peyton a lot. And I feel like it really, really shines through in this book. And I think it works better. It's more entertaining. It's less cringy. It's more serious and more mature for sure. Just everything about it felt better to me. And I flew through this book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I feel like this was a great continuation of the series from where it left it off. And the cliffhanger to this book was even crazier than the cliffhanger to the first book. That is a skill, to be able to come up with something that crazy and to build it up to that point. Oh my god, the cliffhanger to this book, I could have not ever seen that coming a million miles away. And I'm so interested to see how that's gonna pan out in the next book, which I don't know what it's called. Do we know what it's called? Does anybody know what it's called? I don't know. I don't know if she's announced that yet, but I really liked this. I thought it was a lot better than Powerless, and I am actually more excited for the third book than I thought I was going to be. So next, I read a book that I'm absolutely obsessed with. This is a 5 out of 5 star read for me. Notes on an Execution by Daniek Kafka. Oh my god, this is a book about a serial killer, and I'm somebody who listens to a lot of true crime, who is very interested in murder. Like, I admit that. And is it a weird obsession? Is it a weird, very morbid curiosity? Yeah, but this book was insanely good. I read it in one sitting in between classes and just absolutely like chills. Like, it really freaked me out, and this lived in my brain for like multiple days straight. So, okay, here's the thing. It's about a serial killer, and there are two main like kind of points of view of this book. For starters, we have the serial killer's point of view, but freakily enough, it is written in the second perspective. So it's written as if like you are in the brain of this killer. It's so strange. It's like you are in the jail cell, you are on death row, and it's so eerie because being in the brain of somebody like this, it's written so well and it's so believable, and it was crazy good. But then the rest of like all the chapters and stuff are written from the point of view of the women in his life, from his mother to the friends and family of his victims, to the to girls from his childhood, to the woman who's investigating his crimes and trying to solve the murder and murders. And it's crazy. I absolutely love the emphasis on the victims. When we're talking about true crime, way too often we give all the credit to the nasty, crusty, disgusting men who did bullshit, and we don't talk enough about the victims and about the victims' families. And I think this book does a really good job of displaying how we need to be respecting and thinking about victims. It's really awesome. And this book, like I said, lived in my head rent-free for a long time, and I am so obsessed with it. It was so good. And it was like scary in the strangest way possible. And like just being in this man's head is so scary because it's not like just pure crazy insanity, evil. It really is so believable and so realistic, and it's I loved it. I was obsessed with it. Oh my god. 5 out of 5 stars from me. Next, I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. For some odd reason, I've been waiting to buy this book until it was in paperback. Like, I just wanted it in paperback. I didn't want the hard copy. Anyway, that's completely beside the point. I have heard mixed opinions about this book. I originally read it because, obviously, like, I heard a good review about it. But since then, I've heard people kind of not like it. I loved it. I think I also gave this 5 out of 5 stars because, I mean, it's about friendship, which is undeniably always such an interesting thing to explore. Especially, you know, these very, like, platonic friendships, especially a platonic friendship between a man and a woman. Or I guess more specifically, the friendship between a straight man and a straight woman, of course. And also friends as business partners, or, you know, partners in the creative process or whatever. So this book basically follows our two main characters, Sam and Sadie. They are both super smart, video game players and makers. They meet as children and they influence each other a lot at that really young age. But then they don't really talk again for many years until they are adults attending university. I can't remember. One of them is going to MIT and one of them is going to another big school, but I can't remember. But regardless, they end up coming together and they start making video games together. And it results into like their whole worlds changing and they basically influence each other in every sense of the word. I think it's really interesting because it also delves into a lot of other types of relationships, of course, you know, with our friends and our family. And there's also like our romantic partners, all of the things, all of the deep friendship, relationship, love things that can be touched on. I really appreciated how this book touched on the way that our friends and our loved ones really impact everything about our lives and our world and how we would not experience things the same way without them. Like in every aspect of our lives, you know, professionally and personally and anything else. So that's something that I think is super cool to think about and something that I think is touched on in a really beautiful and at some point really, really sad ways. There is some really devastating, sad stuff in this book. And so therefore it also touches on important topics too. Sexism, ableism, racism, all the things. And I really loved it. I really liked it. It was very insightful, very philosophical. And I don't really know why people didn't like it. I have not seen a compelling evidence against this book's goodness. So I don't know. Maybe some of you need to do some reevaluating because honestly, some of you might need to do some reevaluating. Lastly, I read The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is by the same author who wrote The Night Circus, so I already kind of knew sort of the vibe or the tone of this book going into it. I knew it was going to be somewhat ominous and mysterious and artsy and kind of fever dreamy. And it took those adjectives on steroids. This book is crazy, but I had so much fun with it. I don't really even know how to explain it, but it's like this like really strange magical adventure story that there's no way to know what's coming next. And it's like developing this secret world that our main character, Zachary, is discovering. And just the more he discovers, the weirder it gets, the more confusing it gets, the more magical it gets. And it focuses a lot on storytelling. So this is like, technically it's like an underground library or like book storing, like story protecting underground world. And there's like a sea, but it's starless because it's underground. But it's so much weirder than that because there's so much magic and there's all these different people who are also magic, some of which who like probably aren't even people. And it's so strange, but it's so fascinating. And I absolutely had a great time. There's a lot of questions about fate and destiny and like, what does that mean? Is that a thing? What do stories mean? What are the significance of stories? What makes a story? What is happening? It is quite existential, I will say. It is quite existential. And but however, I think the end wraps it up really nicely, and although it is confusing throughout the book, sort of, you're trying to piece together things and it seems weird, but then towards the end, like, I was like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I do get it. Like that, all of that actually kind of, like, although it was kind of weird at the time, it actually came together to kind of make sense, which is crazy. And yeah, the perspective on storytelling in books and the protection of stories, kind of really, really cool. I really appreciated this. I felt like I understand why The Night Circus is more popular, but I think that this is more philosophically significant. But I think that The Night Circus was probably more fun, and I had a great time. This world is so cool and spooky. It's spooky and it's ominous and a little bit scary sometimes. And we like that. We love that. We love that here. Big recommend if you liked The Night Circus, you're gonna like this. I think this author has a very, very distinct voice and tone and kind of vibe about her books that is very clear. And just if you like a good, spooky, mysterious, young adult, like definitely like a fever dreamy kind of what is happening type situation, then yeah, go ahead and pick this bad boy up, because I think you'll like it. All right, that's all I have for August. It is now September. I am reading I'm reading some books that I'm really excited about this month. I do have a lot going on, so I'm really hoping that I get through all of them, because, you know, it's like I have so much time that I want to spend reading, but it can be hard to fit that into everything else that I have going on, which sucks. But that's how the cookie crumbles. Okay, that's how the cookie crumbles. Talking about books on the internet is obviously not my job. So like I don't have endless amounts of time to dedicate to that. But regardless, these were some really good books. I had a really good time this in August. I really did have a really good time. I read some really great books that really filled me with a lot of emotions, which is all I can ask for. It's all I can ask for, baby. So yeah, I will see ya in September, or the end of September, the beginning of October. Ooh, and I have some really great like thrillers and stuff for October. I have some Stephen King books that I've been saving for October for some reason. Yeah, so exciting.